Oh, sorry about that. I just had something in my throat.
So I'm saying my goodbyes.
I'm running.
I'm running. Goodbye to my good side.
I'm breathing.
I'm breathing.
Do you want things to get worse for you?
I have no human form.
I have no human form. Jacob, what have they done to you?
So today we have Wolf. So Wolf, I don't even know if this review is going to get any views at all because I don't think anybody really heard about this one. I only saw trailers for it because I go see, and I'm probably at this point an unhealthy amount of movies, so I see all the trailers, and the trailer for Wolf managed to sneak its way in probably 2 or 3 times, I think, into some movies I had seen recently, but I hadn't heard much about it. Nobody that I knew had heard at all about it, but it was somehow playing at a theater near me, so I was like, you know what, this looks like it could be either a subversive masterpiece or at the very least a weird film to watch. So Wolf came out this year, 2021, directed by, I think it's Natalie Biancheri, but director, there you go. But I suppose the more well-known films, at least according to IMDb, that she has also directed would be Nocturnal and Gibberish. 2 films I've heard nothing about. Honestly, not very familiar with her filmography at all, and this one probably for a lot of people not going to be any exception. I don't think anybody's going to remember this movie in T-minus like 6 months or even hear about this movie at all in the course of their lifetime. I almost didn't hear about it. But what caught my attention was Wolf is basically about this guy. I guess he's like an adult at this point, but he thoroughly believes that he is a wolf. And his parents end up helping him check into an institute for other people that are like him, both younger and around the same age, that all believe. Apparently, I don't know if it's an actual disorder. If it is, then I'll pop it up there. I didn't do a lot of research into this because I was just kind of like looking at it as a film. But apparently it's a disorder for the film's sake where someone believes instead of like a, personality disorder, it's more of like, I believe I am an animal. Which I believe it because I thoroughly subscribe to the belief that nothing is impossible. Like, things are very unlikely, but I 100% believe that there are people out there that have a mental ailment wherein they believe like I am an animal. Like because these are tricky waters to get into. I'm not gonna even begin to equate this to struggles of other currently validated communities, but I can see how someone is like, no, I am a dog, or like I am a cat, or like, etc., etc. I could see that. I could see how somebody would have that ailment going on. So it's a facility that's supposed to help him out because apparently this guy, what's interesting is that out of all the people that are there, like they all kind of like lean into their animals, but he's the only guy that like doesn't, like, he wants to get better. Like, he doesn't want to be this way, but he's still like, he's trying to fight this part of himself. But it was cool because the guy who plays the main character, George Mckay, you might recognize his unique face because he was previously featured in one of my movie reviews as one of the 2 leads of 1917. So, I mean, he's great. Like, he's great in that movie and he's great in this movie, so props to George Mckay for his work. The other, like, lead would be, funny enough, I didn't realize this until after I watched the movie, but Lily Rose Depp is the other main character in this. So we got Johnny Depp's daughter over here, and if you don't know who Johnny Depp is, there's no hope for you. But she's in this, and she's been in a lot, but most recently, she's been in that one movie that also flew under the radar. I didn't even see it, but it was called Voyagers. It was like some weird, like, sci-fi, teen, romance-ish, like, there's like a bunch of, like, you watch the trailer and you see, like, sci-fi neon and, like, sexual repression or whatever. I don't know, but she was in that, too. She does a good job as well. Honestly, the whole cast does. I will say, worth mentioning, I thought this guy was Littlefinger from Game of Thrones, but I was wrong. Paddy Considine, I believe is how you say his name. I thought I recognized him from somewhere, This guy has been in a lot actually, but this guy, I was like, oh yeah, he's the guy in Peaky Blinders that played an absolute son of a bitch. But yeah, Paddy's in this too, and he does a very similar character to his work in Peaky Blinders, but a bit more subdued. Pros first. So I gotta admit, the main draw for me was the interesting premise where it's like this guy who believes he's a wolf and these other people that are around his same age range that all believe they're animals are all going to this facility to go through a very unusual series of psychological and kind of and physical treatments to try to get grounded back to earth and eventually come to the epiphany that, oh, I am not an animal, I am a human being. It's an interesting premise, but I will say, definitely as I was watching it, it's going to be very difficult for your average moviegoer to take it seriously, because I mean it's hard when it's you walk into a room and there's a girl that's bark 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 or meow, when it's humans that are doing things that are very inhuman, it's gonna eventually, the mind is gonna take it one of two ways, and I think most people that would go see this movie would be laughing at it and would think that it's funny or stupid or silly, and I get that, but I think there's more to it. I mean, if you're looking at it from oh no, they're actually girl, that's mentally they're going through it right now. That's the headspace they're in, and that's why they're at this facility to get treatment. But in the meantime, that's going to be how they're acting, and I could see how it would be hard to take it seriously, but it's kind of like walking into a room full of kids and be like, come on, be professional about this, let's be serious. It's hard to kind of get yourself into that headspace. What is a very pleasant surprise is there's an excellent performance from every single cast member involved in this. Whether it's an uncomfortable scene, whether it's an emotional one, a funny one, whatever the vibe, the tone, the emotion is, all the actors in the film nail it. Whether it's being an animal or portraying somebody who is desperately trying to suppress the urge, or the doctor who's trying to round up all these kids, every person plays their part very well. It is a very surprisingly very well acted film, and for that I have to give it props. To its own credit, it starts to try to break ground on to potentially breach these interesting psychological concepts. It lays it all out. Here are these human beings and what they're going through. Let's break this open and discuss. And I thought the film was going to do a more in-depth, thorough job of looking at the actual psychological reasoning behind why some of these people were, you would think, oh, through trauma, this person now kind of has, their mindset has diverted to that of this particular animal as either a coping mechanism or survival instinct or some psychological reasoning. And they start to scratch the surface of that, but they never get below the shallow grave that it is they're working on here. Which is why the film then, by the end, it ultimately crumbles and falls apart for me. It doesn't, all these concepts that are laid out as if they're going to be explored aren't fully, and they're not fully explained, they're not fully delved into. There's threads that the film starts to pull on and then just never fully, in my opinion, never fully circles back around to. In my opinion, the film just has a bad ending. I'm not gonna spoil it necessarily, I'm not mad enough to really spoil it, but the ending of the film itself, it feels like all the groundwork we laid is just kind of forgotten about. There's a whole construction site there that is this film, and then eventually the foreman, who is maybe the main character or whoever, or the foreman is the film, I guess, or I don't know, some weird metaphor I'm going for here. Eventually they're just all right, well, that's it, I'm done, I'm out of here, see ya. And everybody's just there at the construction site look, we started all this work, the wiring is here, the foundation is here, aren't we gonna build up on this and finish it? And whoever started all that and was responsible for it was nah. Almost every single character in this film doesn't really experience an arc or a progression of their character. You can argue that maybe our main character kind of does. I guess an argument could be made for that. I feel if that is the case and that is his character arc, it is a very dissatisfying and disappointing and kind of ultimately a silly one. It doesn't really work for me personally, and I think a lot of the other characters that are introduced in this film that are pretty major, they don't really have closure or resolution. They're just left to continue to exist in this world that the film has created for us. And yeah, by the end of the film it doesn't work. I was pretty disappointed. I think it's well directed. It's well directed, well shot. It looks just artsy enough. And there are some scenes that make you kind of uncomfortable. There's some scenes that make you cringe a little bit. There's a scene or two where I guess you could feel something equivalent to that of emotion for some characters, but I don't know. it's a very serious undertaking because it's a film that's not going to be really your average film here, and it's asking the audience to kind of like put themselves into a certain mindset, and I don't know, it's got a good, like I said, I got a good premise. We have a good solid foundation here for what could be an excellent film, and by the end of it, it just falls apart for me. And that's kind of all I have to say about it. There's not much further to say without digging into actual specific plot details and story elements. So I'll just leave it at that. I would say don't waste your time. If you're really curious, watch it. Like, it's not terrible, but it's not good. Like, I thought it was kind of bad. And it's unfortunate because I was hoping it would be better, and a better film could have been had, but it was not, just due to execution. So for that reason, I would have to give Wolf, and I do give it credit where credit's due, but at the same time, give it all the credit you can in the world, it still doesn't pass the assignment. I don't even think the film understood its own assignment. So that's why we have a high, and I'm being generous here, but a high 2 out of 5. I give it a high 2 out of 5. Mainly for the fact that, like I said, interesting premise, and they make it seem, and they start to dive into these psychological concepts as to why these people believe that they are the animals that they are and why they're acting the way that they do. And I'm sure if you dig deeper and you want to do like a video essay and dissertation on it, you could probably surmise and basically kind of estimate a lot of the answers and do some theories and all that, and I'm sure it would yield some interesting results. But for the sake of the film, period, like, yes, interesting concepts, yes, the psychological side to it there's potential there, and yes, it is superbly acted. It is very well acted, but bottom line is, no matter how many good actors you have, if the story and the narrative of the film itself isn't on stable enough ground, isn't finished, and just doesn't work well enough for its own sake, then it's going to bring the whole film down, in my opinion. So that's why I would say, again, Wolf is just like, it's kind of I thought it was a bit, I won't call it a waste of time, but you can definitely see some better movies out now, or some better movies that have been out for decades. So don't waste your time with Wolf. An unfortunate waste of potential, as a lot of these great films so often are. But that's all I have to say. So, thank you guys and gals so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode of whatever movie I review. Goodbye, travelers.